I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
C60 in oil is a powerful antioxidant that moves through the body like a magnet to attract and neutralize free radicals. Gotta get rid of those radicals. C60 can slow down aging and reduce cell damage. It can also improve the immune system and reduce inflammation naturally. Not bad. If you're interested, check out my link in the description. Nutty. I saw this the other day because Amazing Polly shared it on Twitter. If real, this should scare every parent out of the public system. And she shared it from Methods. They got Fauci teaching children about the need for vaccines and how it's, quote, dangerous to think otherwise during virtual schools.
When we go back to school, your teachers and your health officials are going to try as best as possible to protect you from getting infected. When a vaccine comes along, and we will get a vaccine probably by the end of this year, the beginning of 2021. And if the vaccine proves to be safe and effective, we all should get vaccinated. I know I'm going to get vaccinated when we get a vaccine. So we should make sure we protect everyone by getting a vaccine.
So you've said that a vaccine is what will end this pandemic. But that can only happen if the vast majority of people trust the science behind them. In all your years as a public health official, have you seen a shift in how people view science?
Unfortunately, yes. It's shifting in the wrong direction, in that there has been an anti-science attitude that is not only unfortunate, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because science is the pursuit of knowledge, of truth. And if you fashion your actions based on misinformation, it could be dangerous to you and dangerous to society. So I would encourage all the children that even though there's a pushback on science from some people, that is not a good direction to follow.
I don't know about you, but I don't want him encouraging my children at all. And is it real? Yes, it's from BrainPop. BrainPop.com. BrainPop is a group of educational websites with over 1,000 short animated movies for students in grades K through 12. Because evidently, science is uncorruptible, unblackmailable, unbiased, unagenda-oriented. It's not. Mostly what I use for this is I found an old documentary on a channel called Spark. It's called Does Money Get in the Way of Science? The Frauds of Science. It looks like it was made in the 90s, if I had to guess. I'll leave a link below. And also, from CBC News, which is Canada, Cleaning Up Bad Science.
These are unsettling days for scientific research. There's a retraction epidemic underway. Hundreds of research papers are being pulled from the scientific record. At the same time, questions are being raised about the reliability of study findings. In fact, it's been estimated that much of the scientific literature, perhaps half, may be simply untrue.
Most of what occurs in the practice of science goes on behind closed doors, beyond the prying eye of the public. Nevertheless, science and the scientists who conduct its research seem to enjoy an almost religious-like reverence, having been granted a virtual hands-off policy by the public at large to create, advance, and mold the future. Against this backdrop, however, science is increasingly accused of fraud in the pursuit of useful research findings, applications, and profits.
There's corruption in any field. I mean, there are great people and there are people that are somewhat corrupt in any field. Science is no different.
While there are more than 1 million active scientists in the United States whose activities contribute greatly to our prosperity and on whose integrity we rely, critics argue that science is fairly frequently done as fast practice. That scientists, like the rest of us, try to cut corners, get their papers published, have their ideas for research funded, compete with co-professionals, and vie for glory.
I could spend an entire day telling you about the science and research fraud that my colleagues and I know about.
It's a global problem. In London, Fiona Godley is editor of the BMJ, one of the world's most prestigious scientific journals.
That's too dense, I don't think.
She's also one of science's fiercest critics.
It is a very tricky balance to take, because there are people who would say, don't question, don't criticize, don't share your skepticism. All it will do is create doubt in the public's mind about science. We want them to believe science, we want them to base their decisions on science, we want them to trust it. My view is that actually that's a dangerous approach. That's right.
Because bad science can be dangerous.
Patients do get hurt. I mean, we know that. Patients get hurt because clinical trials are done wrongly, clinical trials are wrongly reported, science is over-interpreted, drugs that shouldn't be available are available.
It is alleged by many that science fraud is commonplace in a society driven by money and ambition.
Ooh, cash make the coochie go woo woo.
Scientists are now, more than ever, motivated toward the falsification of research in pursuit of hefty corporate grants or public recognition.
I think it's a trend in society that money is just much more important now. I think the trouble is funds are limited, and that's just a fact of life, and scientists have to compete for money.
Modern science is a large-scale enterprise, heavily funded and highly directed. Its dominant players are large corporations and the U.S. government, both of whom have definite stakes in the outcome of any given research.
The industry being involved in university research is a double-edged sword. There is the fear that there will be some interjection of their agenda into the research.
For Godley, commercial interests are one of the most corrupting forces in science.
Further complicating these financial challenges, seasoned scientists find themselves competing for finite funds in a glutted field, going up against much younger, comparatively inexperienced practitioners. This competition for grants, status, position, and money makes the temptation to veer away from the straight and narrow almost irresistible.
People leak us things, people send us documents. We get reports from universities that aren't really supposed to see the light of day, and we publish them or do what we can with them.
Sometimes it's been an honest mistake, but most of the time studies are retracted because of misconduct, including plagiarism and faking data.
It's been happening as long as scientists have been doing science. For decades, there have been people, one of whom actually painted with a magic marker on a mouse in an elevator on the way up to give a presentation to make it look as though his results were actually what he wanted everybody to think they were.
That was William Summerlin who colored his mouse with a marker. And he has lots of company in the rogues gallery of scientific misconduct. Here's Wang Woo-suk, the South Korean scientist who thrilled the world saying he'd cloned human embryonic cells. Except he didn't. He made it up. There's John Darcy, the Harvard cardiologist who can claim dozens of faked papers based on data from experiments he never did. Over here, UK Dr. Malcolm Pierce claiming a world first by reversing a miscarriage, except the patient didn't exist. That's the guy who plagiarized the paper about plagiarism. And meet Dong-Pyu Han, who faked a vaccine experiment by spiking his rabbit samples with human blood.
In June 2014, federal prosecutors actually charged Han, a vaccine researcher, with crimes involving making false statements. Han confessed to adulterating rabbit blood with human antibodies to create the impression that an experimental HIV vaccine might be working. After $5 million was spent in National Institutes of Health, NIH, grants, it was found that Han's results, once hailed as groundbreaking, were fraudulent. In February 2015, Han accepted a plea deal under which he faces prison time and restitution payments. Han's case illustrates the shortcuts and downright fabrications of some vaccine researchers.
Given such an environment, does the potential for objective scientific research even exist? What incentive is there for a scientist to research a lackluster group of findings if these will only result in his being passed over the next time deep-pocketed corporations come courting. It should come as no surprise, then, that many scientific researchers are becoming less concerned about whether data is contaminated and more concerned about what can be done with contaminated data.
It is corruption of the scientific process, and it happens both through commercial interest, as I've said, drug companies, device companies, academic institutions unwilling to confront fraud in medical research, and individual academics who have their own agendas, their own careers, their own closely held, passionate beliefs, which do affect, and there's endless evidence to show this, do affect the outcome of that research.
Competition for grants, status, position, and money. It can be accurately said, then, that the scientist's very livelihood depends on appealing to deep pockets to obtain grants, to whom it is alleged the scientist will then be subjected to massive oversight on the part of the powerful vested interests.
And the difficulty, I think, is that business people have very different motivations from scientists. And in the end, money makes the communication between the two very difficult. The business people are interested in, the bottom line. How can they make the company most profitable? Whereas the research scientists are interested in developing a neat technology, a new product. How can this technology help cure diseases and things? So there's a great barrier to having the two mesh.
Medical research and the development of new physical and drug therapies are specialty areas of scientific study wherein human lives may often hang in the balance. Because the financial gains available to pharmaceutical companies can be so enormous, experts contend that the tendency toward conflict of interest is markedly increased. Such has certainly been the case in the area of AIDS research. Critics allege that when scientists themselves must chase the money needed to support their labs and university status, that biased research results, especially those linked to powerful vested interests, are permitted and even expected.
Fauci told us in 2017 there was going to be a surprise outbreak.
There is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. There will be a surprise outbreak.
And if we want to listen to history at all, let's hear what Bill Cooper had to say.
Most modern secret societies, and especially those that practice degrees of initiation, and that is the key, are really one society with one purpose. You may call them whatever you wish. The Jesuit.
The Jesuits taught you high school, college, Holy Cross, right. Regis High School in Manhattan. What impact, what does it mean to be taught by Jesuits? We hear about Jesuits all the time.
Well, it's a great experience.
They are all the same, and all work toward the same ultimate goal, a new world order.
Fucking stoned.
I got a motherfucking spaceship. Oh, fuck. Cool, I got it.